Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson. We're back in the building, which means we're back on our regular schedule. I didn't record on Monday because I was traveling back. I told you guys after I recorded Saturday's show that we wouldn't do a Sunday show unless we won. And so I got out of Dodge, and we finished up post game, had a chance to kind of say your goodbyes. And I'll tell you guys too, I'm an old guy. I am. I say I'm old. I mean, a lot of old people would say, Steve, you're so young. There's some days I feel like I'm much older, and days I feel I'm much younger. But the days that our baseball season ends, I feel a little old. I do. Because of the fact that you got to say goodbye to a lot of people. You do. And it takes a lot out of you. It really does. It's the nature of things. But when you spend so much time on the road and covering this team so in depth, you get to know people and their families. And many of these families we'll never see again. It's true. We'd like to think so. I mean, the players themselves will come back from time to time when they're being honored, and they'll have their moment at Duty Noble Field, and we'll clap and we'll remember the good times. But, mom and dad probably not going to make it back for that. It's just kind of how it is. There are some baseball parents, of course, that make some relationships with, the parents of players that are younger than their son. They'll come back occasionally. Of course, there's some baseball parents that have been Bulldogs all along. So we see them. But there are some that you get to know. There are some that are incredibly kind. Incredibly kind. And they're very grateful for the job that we do at genespage.com to tell the story of their favorite baseball player. And so it's sad to see the road end. It is. Now, I'm not going to go back and break down any games because that's all behind us now. I want to kind of do a season in review, but also to look forward. And I want to talk a lot about expectations. What are reasonable expectations for this program? What are reasonable expectations for next year? What should we expect as Mississippi State fans? I think that's important. I think that's where we kind of draw the line right now. Did this team reach its true potential? And I think we've got to be honest with ourselves about that. We have to really be critical, but also kind of understanding and just kind of draw the lines where they are. Because at the end of the year, your record and your stats are who you are. No matter what your best intentions are, no matter how hard you work, it's not about how much you prepared, it's about what you produce. I know a lot of guys that are great practice players, they can't do it on the field. And that's not just limited to Mississippi State or limited to baseball. But we're going to take some time to talk about that, kind of how it all ended up. And again, kind of what we should expect, kind of year in and year out. We'll address some rumors about Coach Chris Lemonis. There's a couple of those out there floating around. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about some things that I uncovered yesterday. We're almost ready for you guys to pre-order the Dude. I get messages every day, probably a dozen, and it's very, very close. And one of the holdups is, we've got to finalize everything, the price and everything on the limited edition. And there's only going to be a couple hundred of those. And they're going to go very quickly. And so it's going to be a more expensive book. It is. And it's going to be worth it. But we do expect those to sell out the first couple of days, maybe 2-3 days. Could be gone the first day. I don't know. But they got to get all that set up because, it's like when you do a regular issue, you sell as many of those as you can, but we've got a limited number of these limited editions, thus limited edition. And so as a result, there'll be a counter. And once it hits that counter, once those 200 books are sold, we're done. Yeah. So, but coming soon, the Dude. And I've got some cool things to share before we get out of here today. Let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors of this show, part of the great Eat With Us group that has served our area so well for so many years. First thing I did when I got back to Starkville, I came home, put some clothes in the wash, took my dogs out, reunited with them, and I went and met the bride at Harvey's. It's true. Went there and had the New York strip special with crawfish sauce on it. And it was so substantial, I had to save some for lunch, and I was glad that I did. But I actually ate that for supper last night. Long story. I'll get to that later. But nevertheless, Bulldog Burger Company, really the place you go when you just kind of want a casual sit-down meal where you can just enjoy friends and family. You can have an adult beverage. You can have a family night. And maybe that's something you consider. Maybe it's not a white tablecloth night. It's like, hey, let's give mom a night off or dad a night off, and let's head down to Bulldog Burger Company and just be a family and enjoy, being served. It's true. 3 great locations to serve you: University Drive in Sark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowwood area. Have the spring rolls as your appetizers. They'll make you better looking. Make everybody around you better looking too. We all need more of that. Make the world a more beautiful place by enjoying those spring rolls as often as you possibly can. Maybe even get them one day as a lunch. Yeah, some of you need it. But get that great restaurant quality hamburger, whether it be the Mission, the Bryant, the Lauren. There's so many great options to choose from. The Bulldog is always a winner. You can never go wrong or just getting the Bulldog burger itself, the signature burger of Bulldog Burger Company. And maybe you're thinking, you know what, I want to eat quite that heavy. Get that BLT salad. I like it grilled. You may prefer it fried. I always like it doused in ranch. I'm from South Mississippi. It's a requirement for existence. Or maybe you're feeling those Sloppy Joe sliders or those sweet heat chicken sliders. Yeah, check them out today. You'll be glad you did. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. M-E-A-T. Okay. Now, I say this not out of any arrogance or any, posturing, because I've covered more college baseball than anybody on this beat ever. It's true. It's true. And I say that to kind of add some validity to what I'm about to say. There are a lot of people that have strong takes about this team that have seen them about half the time, or less. It's true. And then they have the nerve to be wanting to be taken seriously. Not that everybody doesn't have an opinion, but I think opinions have to be, judged based on what they're rooted in. And so let's just talk in general terms here. My expectation, as unreasonable as it may be, my expectation is for Mississippi State to get to Omaha every year. Do I expect to get to Omaha every year? No. I want to. I do. I want to. I want to win national championships every year. But, hey, it took us, forever and a day. 108 years to get our first one? 106 years? More than that, I guess. But, 140-something. Goodness. It took us forever to get one. So I say that because I think it's important to understand we are not in any way a mediocre program. Now, we've had some mediocre results at times, but we are not a mediocre program. When you consider, number one, first of all, our tradition, and second of all, our financial and emotional investment into baseball, it's elite. We need elite results. And not winning a regional is not an elite result. Now, that's not to say that this team didn't max out, because I think they did. But I believe Mississippi State should always be in a position to host. Always. With rare exception. And you say, but Steve, you've kind of beat the drum all year that we've only hosted 6 times since 99. That's true. But I think it's time for us to elevate standard. Right? We built this great cathedral of a ballpark because, number one, we wanted to provide the greatest amenities out there in college baseball for our players and recruits. We wanted to show them that we have the tools to help them get better. We have the know-how as coaches to help them develop and become pro prospects and help us win some games along the way. Both of those goals can be reached simultaneously. But yes, I think we should be in contention to host and to be a favorite to get to Omaha just about every year. Now, one of the things I'll tell you guys, in 19, I was very close with Jake Mangum. I love Jake. And I hope to see his major league debut in person. I really do. Love Jake to death. Got a chance to know him and his family. And they are tremendous people. And I remember when we left Omaha. And I remember that emotional press conference. And I remember Jake laying out, trying to make a play against Louisville in the final play, in a game that we blew. We did. We should have won that elimination game and then gone on and played Vanderbilt. You never know what's going to happen. And Vanderbilt was the best team in the country that year. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They just had our number. But we should have beat Louisville. And I remember the look on Jake's face as he sat out there in center field at TD Ameritrade, knowing that it was over. And then he comes to post game and he cries and he tells Chris Lemonis, "You're going to lead us to this program's first ever national championship." That proved to be prophetic. It's true. But I left my credential from the 2019 College World Series hanging from my rearview mirror for 2 years. I told myself, because I felt like we had a chance, because 18, we finished third in the country. It was kind of a surprise, probably our most improbable run to Omaha of all time. In 19, we were a good team when we knew it. In 2020, we knew we were going to be a good team. And I remember being in that post-game locker room after we're eliminated in 19, talking to Jake Gautreaux. And I said, in our program's history, we have never gone to Omaha 3 years in a row. We've gone back-to-back twice. We've never gone 3 years in a row. And Jake looked at me and said, "We're going to do it." And we had the team to do it. And, of course, COVID comes along. And, the season's canceled. The weekend we're set to play Arkansas. Right here to open SEC play. I'll never forget that day. Never. And so, because of the fact that we had Justin Foscue and Jordan Westberg on that team, you felt like, hey, we got a really good chance here to kind of get there and stick. And we were denied that opportunity. It's nobody's fault. They had the abbreviated draft, and of course those guys go early. Foscue has made the show. Of course, Jordan Westberg up there doing some big things in the show. But we felt like 2020 would be really good. We didn't go out and get tattoos and declare ourselves national champions in 2020. But we knew we had a team capable of getting to Omaha. We had done it 2 years in a row, and we were primed and ready in 2020. Of course, that gets pushed back. And because of the fact there was the abbreviated draft, guys like Rowdy Jordan, Tanner Allen don't get drafted. And so we come back in 2021, and we win our national championship. And I think we all thought, including myself, that, hey, we've kind of graduated beyond this whole thing of kind of scuffling to get into the tournament. We're past that. We've arrived. We've got the coach, we've got the facility, we've got the stadium, we've got the financial support of the administration. We're here to stay. That's how it felt. I don't know how you felt, but that's how I felt. And the one thing that I think we've been able to count on more years than not, even when we've had some lean years in basketball and in football, has been baseball. Mississippi State should be in the postseason. Even when we don't host, we're in the postseason somewhere wrecking somebody else's regional. And so I share that because I think it skewed our expectations, and I think in a positive way. Now, of course, Chris Lemonis in many respects becomes a victim of his own success. People forget in 2019, Chris Lemonis set the SEC record for most wins in a first season by an SEC head coach. It's true. In 2020, we were just kind of beginning to find ourselves. We go down there and win a couple of games down in Biloxi against Texas Tech, who was nationally ranked, and think, hey, here we go. Now we're ready to go play. Watch out for the Bulldogs, because here we come. And then we went in 2021. And I'll never get anybody to admit this on the record, and I probably wouldn't admit it either. And I've shared this on the show before. I believe in 2022, we had some players, and I love them all. I do. But I love the M over S more. I love Mississippi State more. That's important. It's an important distinction. We had some players on this team that were not good enough to play here. And we had some that maybe could have developed into being a Mississippi State player, but we had some recruiting misses. And then because of the injuries we had in 2022, we had to play those recruiting misses. And we had some other guys that were probably marginal contributors, and we thought, you know what, we just won a national championship. And I'm sure Chris Lemonis thought, I don't want to be known as the guy that wins a national championship and then runs off some of the players that helped him win it. That's only human nature. But when it comes to business and when it comes to baseball, you have to be vicious and you have to be brutal. I get it. You got to live with yourself, but you know what? You have an obligation to your employer, to your legacy, to the tradition of this program, to always be upgrading the roster. Always. Even in the best of times, you got to be really honest and be very critical of your roster or even your staff and say, you know what, hey, where can we get better? Because good enough is just not good enough at Mississippi State. It may be good enough at Louisiana Monroe, maybe good enough at Troy or South Alabama, maybe good at Memphis, maybe some other schools, but it's not good enough here. Good enough will never be good enough when there is an expectation of excellence. And so we kind of got trapped a little bit there, and I know, and Chris Lemonis has shared with me before, having to move on from Scott Foxhall, the most difficult decision that he's ever made in his professional career. And I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was. Scott Foxhall is an amazing man. And Scott Foxhall will always be a part of some of the biggest moments in Mississippi State baseball history. But knowing what we know now after a year with Justin Parker, it was absolutely the right decision. Absolutely. And there were many people this time last year, as we're in the month of June, Chris Lemonis is out there chasing a new pitching coach. And the portal had opened. And, hey, we're trying to chase some of these players. And they're like, hey, Coach, I would love to come to Mississippi State. I like what you guys have done. You're not so far removed from a national championship. You got the best baseball facility in the country. But who's going to coach me? Who's going to be responsible for my development? And you didn't have an answer. You couldn't even say, hey, I think we know, or it's probably going to be this guy. We didn't know. We didn't know. Now, I can tell you, Justin Parker was on our short list from the get-go. We initially approached him. He's like, I don't know if he's going to make a move this year. And then we circled back. We thought we had a hire. Didn't work out. We circled back to Parker, and we ultimately got the guy we really wanted all along. And it's so interesting how things have played out at South Carolina since Parker left. And here's what I mean by that. There were so many people, and some within the South Carolina media, that said there's no way that Justin Parker leaves here. He and his family love it here. And how many times have we used that same verbiage, right? There's no way Dan Mullen would leave here. There's no way this coach would leave. They love it here. They do. And you know what? They probably do. But you know what? If you're willing to pay me about $1 million per more a year, I could love somewhere else too. I could. I'd get back to Starkville pretty often. But I could fall in love with a nicer house and a little more money in the bank. We all could. We're all people. Our loyalty, because of the fact that our employment, well, mine in some respects is, but when we're speaking just as fans, our employment is not rooted in college sports. Right? It's true. Our ability to feed our families is not relying on wins and losses. It is for me in some respects because, hey, when we don't win, you guys don't subscribe. You guys don't listen to the show. You don't buy books. I know. I've lived this thing. I've been writing about Mississippi State since 1997. Had some good years, some bad years. Had some really bad, terrible years at times too. And then what happens is when things are poor, you get people that turn on each other. And there's not accord or harmony within the fan base. And so I share that because there were a lot of people last year, and I was a little bit skeptical myself. What was the caliber of pitching coach that Chris Lemonis could hire, knowing that he was on the hot seat heading into the year? Who is going to uproot their family and say, you know what, it may be a one-year deal, but I got to go have this opportunity? Well, Justin Parker did. And Mississippi State, and it is a power move. And I think some people in the South Carolina media are still reeling from that because there is the realization that Mississippi State is a bigger job than South Carolina and a better job, even though Ray Tanner won 2 championships there and Lemonis has won 1 here. The facilities here are great. Now, Founders Park, in my estimation, the second best ballpark in the country, behind Duty Noble. It's true. If you've ever been there, you know what I'm talking about. There's some things they could do to make it a little bit nicer, but they got that 360 view. It's nice. It's a great park. It truly is. But they don't have the amenities, and they don't have the budget that we do. That's an important thing to understand. We're paying Justin Parker significantly more to coach at Mississippi State than South Carolina paid him there. And then look at what's happened now this year. Mark Kingston fired. And as somebody else in the industry told me, he didn't get fired for this year. He got fired for last year. and you begin to think about that, that's a good point. It was very much known that Mark Kingston was pursuing the job at Miami last year. And maybe it's because he wanted to get out of South Carolina. Because listen, talking to people in the industry, Ray Tanner doesn't get everything that he wants for baseball at South Carolina. You say, but Steve, how could that be? He's the AD. Well, you got to answer to a board of trustees. And you got a women's basketball program up there that's doing exceptionally well. It's costing you a ton of money. But you know what? They're winning championships, and people are willing to pay the freight on that. And so, as a result, maybe baseball doesn't get those quarter zips this year. Maybe baseball doesn't get new turf in the batting cage. There are a lot of things that get put back. Hey, Coach, do we really need this? Don Staley's winning big. This has become our identity as a program. And even though it may cost us a lot of money financially, this is who we are and what we are. It's what we're going to support. And so then Kingston, again, looking to take the Miami job, didn't get the Miami job. But when you go out there and think about this, it's kind of like a relationship, right? It's like, hey, I really like you a lot, Steve, but I'm not ready to commit to you. And it's like, well, wait a minute. We've been together for a while, and, I thought we were exclusive. And it's like, well, I don't want to get engaged or anything because, my old high school boyfriend's kind of come back in my life, and it's kind of stirred up some old feelings for me, and I need to pursue this before I can fully commit to you. I mean, how are you going to feel about that? Well, you're not. Then all of a sudden, Johnny High School breaks her heart, and she comes running back and says, okay, now I've learned my lesson. I want to be with you. Yeah, because I'm the safe option. I'm your cream cheese bagel. Yeah. And don't you think that people at South Carolina felt that way with Mark Kingston? It's like, okay, yeah, you come back. Yeah. But you know what, buddy? You better win. And he goes 13-17. They get to a regional, get bounced out, and now that staff is gone. Now, I don't know that they would have had the same season this year if Justin Parker would have been there, because Justin Parker is an excellent pitching coach. But I share all that because I think it's important to understand there is some ebb and flow with everything. Now, I had some people reach out on my way back from Virginia that said that Chris Lemonis was being mentioned by some in the South Carolina media in connection with their job. And somebody said, Steve, is there any truth to that? And I'm like, well, let me find out. But it's important to understand as somebody who has been on that end of things, the first thing, what's the question you all have? Okay, we've made a coaching change. Who are we going to hire? Who are the names? And you want to know immediately. Well, fortunately in years past, we've had some lead time when we knew a coaching change was going to happen. So we had time to kind of compile a list. And some of those lists are based on sourced reports. Some of them come from people close to the process. Some come from agents. And some come from our own due diligence, which is how we had Justin Parker on the pitching coach hot board on day one. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you this. I don't know anybody that covers a coaching search quite like we do, right? I don't know anybody that commits the time and effort to it that we do. There are a lot of people in the media that just wait for somebody else to report it, and then they'll go aggregate that report. I'm not built that way. That's why Gene's paid subscribers knew that Mike Leach was in the mix for our coaching job before anybody else did. It's true. It's true. There's a reason that our people knew that, Zach Arnett was getting fired. And initially I was told he wasn't going to be fired. But then as we get ready to go to A&M the Tuesday before the game, I'm like, hey, he's not going to be back next year. And I'm like, well, hey, are we going to fire him in season? No, we prefer not to do that. What if we get embarrassed this weekend by a 13 quarterback in College Station, Texas? Well, in that case, all bets are off. And so I shared that because not all hot boards are the same. You want them to be. There's a lot of credibility in what we do because we work exceptionally hard, and that's not to say we get them all right. But there is a big demand on the South Carolina media immediately to have some names. And Chris Lemonis makes a lot of sense. And as somebody said, well, he played at College of Charleston. Well, hey, Bulldog fans, we love dogs. We do. I got a bunch of them. One of the things that you ask yourself, well, why are so many dogs suffering with health issues these days? Well, one of our favorites, actress Katherine Heigl, who's helped save over 16,000 dogs through her foundation, says she's seen more issues with dogs' joints, odors, and health than ever before. And after doing some research, she feels like there's one place we can look to support our dog's health: their food. So she decided to create something she could actually feel good about feeding her dogs. It's called Superfood Complete.
Superfood Complete is made with over 30 of the healthiest ingredients on our planet, including several superfoods vital to our dog's health. Badlands Ranch also supports the Jason Dubas Heigl Foundation, which has helped rescue thousands of dogs and placed them in loving homes. So I had the opportunity to try this out with my dogs. They have absolutely loved it. What's amazing to me, I've got 5 dogs and 3 live inside. But what's so crazy is when I decided to kind of mix in some of this superfood with their regular food, right? You want to make the big change there. After a couple of days of me working in this Superfood Complete, they would leave their food and come to the bag. They absolutely love it. I'm eager to see how it affects their performance and their health, but I can tell you this, my dogs absolutely love Superfood Complete. Go to badlandsranch.com/boneyard and order right now to get 50% off your regular priced order with a 90-day money-back guarantee. If you want your dog to experience all these incredible things, go to Badlands, that's BADLANDS, ranch.com/boneyard today.
Hey, Bulldog fans, let's just be honest about it. Just go ahead and put it on the line. Mississippi State folks and boots just go together. That's why I'm so proud to partner with Tecovas Boots. In every pair of Tecovas boots, you can expect handmade quality, first wear comfort, and timeless Western style. A great pair of Western boots will elevate a casual look or add a refined flair that will draw both eyes and compliments. Tecovas boots are always made from premium bovine and exotic leathers, and with occasional resoling, they will last a lifetime. The best way to shop for boots is at your local Tecovas store. I recently went into the one there in Riders, Arkansas. It is absolutely fabulous. You'll be greeted by the smell of fresh leather and a friendly smile. Come on in, grab a cold one, get fitted by a pro, and shop the latest styles. Tecovas offers custom branding, leather stamping. If you want to personalize your boots or all your fine leather goods, as spring makes its way into summer, stay cool in a short sleeve, moisture-wicking pearl snap, or make your own shade with one of their classic straw hats. New in both women's and men's styles. Visit Tecovas, that's TECOVAS.com. And don't go gently, y'all. Just don't do it.
Actually did, and he played at the Citadel. Yeah, I mean, it says a little bit about sourcing. But, Chris has family out there, has ties out there. And you begin to think about it, hey, if you're an embattled coach, Chris Simonis, and it's like, hey, I could get out and kind of reset the clock here. Well, maybe that's a good thing to do. Also with a big pay cut, as you hear the thunder roll out here, right? And so I share that with you because it's important to understand. Chris Simonis is a coach that has won a national championship, and so as a result, there are going to be a lot of people that say, you know what, hey, this guy might be worth looking into. And that's part of the hot board construction, right? Is you look for things that make sense. Who may be looking to make a move this year? If I'm on the outside looking in, I'm thinking, hey, Chris Simonis kind of turned things around this year. So the getting may be good now. Because next year, they're losing a lot of players, and so it may be a situation where it's worth talking to him. And so that's part of it too. But there's also the whole issue of the pay cut and the fact that despite having a great ballpark, you don't have near the same facilities. Not as far as player amenities go. We get that even interviewing Justin Parker. He's like, hey, nobody has this. Nobody has what we have here at Mississippi State. He said, I love my time at South Carolina, but they don't have these things. And it doesn't appear that they're going to be willing to give them the money to get those things. But I have a lot of respect for the South Carolina program. I think an awful lot of Ray Tanner. I really do. I think Ray coached the game the right way, developed pitching. Those teams are really fun to watch. They went back-to-back national championships. The second one was probably more surprising than the first. But it was great. It was. Enjoyed watching those teams. Hated playing against them. Enjoyed watching them, right? But there's also a rumor out there that say, so I hear that Mississippi State's going to give Lemonis a 4-year extension. I've looked into that too, and I don't think we're at that point. And that's not to be, disrespectful to anybody, anything like that. Those discussions just haven't begun. Does Chris deserve an extension? Yeah, probably so. And I would likely extend him without increasing the buyout. You know what I'm saying? And so like if I needed to get out of it, I could. But, yeah, I mean, I think he deserves it. I'm told he has 2 years left on this deal. And I understood at the beginning of the year, I thought that we only had 1 year left on this deal. So I was asking, hey, contracts should be running out. And they said, no, still got another year. So that means at some point along the way, we worked in an extension. But I don't know all the language in that 2022 contract. After the 21 season, we had a 2022 contract, long-term extension. And, state law says it's 4 years. But there have been some other situations around the state, even involving Mississippi State, where, there's another guarantee of a 5th year. And so I just think that's probably what we did. I don't know that. It's just me speculating. But, no, he has not been given a new 4-year contract, at least not yet. And it doesn't appear that he's going to South Carolina either. And I'm curious to see who they hire. We may come back here tomorrow or on Friday and say, you know what, hey, South Carolina came up with the money and Lamonis is leaving. I don't expect that. I have spoken with Chris extensively in the last year or so. And outside of a few knuckleheads on social media, he loves it here. It's true. He does. Loves it here. Family loves it here. They got a great thing here. He's won here. These guys didn't forget how to coach. Just got to ramp up some things recruiting. That's one thing we're going to talk about in the next segment here. Well, once we get back from the top 10 list, is what's next for Mississippi State. So I wanted to address the expectations and rumors, and then we're also going to talk about what we're losing this year and what we need to replace, kind of how those guys performed, and who may be a star on the horizon. That's what's next. All right, time for today's top 10 list. As always, brought to you by closewithblair.com. That's CLOSE with Blair, BLAIR.com. Blair's our friend. He just happens to be our friend in the mortgage industry. So if you're just starting out in life, or maybe looking to reset life, or maybe looking to add to the enjoyment of your life with a game day condo, Blair is the person to go to. Blair was 23 years of experience in this industry. Phone number is 601-500-2344. Again, 601-500-2344. Blair is a real dude, man. For sure. Top 1% close ratio in the country back-to-back-to-back years. When you need an advocate with underwriting, and you do, Blair is the one to count on. Licensed in several states. It doesn't matter where you live. We can get you taken care of. A lot of Bulldogs, a lot of listeners to this show have used Blair for their mortgage needs, whether you're looking to buy a home, get a second mortgage, do some refi. I don't know what your needs are. Only you do. But you can bet your bottom dollar that Blair Chandler knows how to get you approved. Yeah, that's the name, closewithblair.com. And maybe you're a non-conforming borrower with an atypical property. I don't know. A lot of people fit that category. It's better to deal with somebody who has seen it all and done it all. That's Blair Chandler. Be sure to hit him up today on his website. He's a longtime Mississippi State fan, season ticket holder in multiple sports. I like to keep business in the family when we can. As always, Close with Blair, our sponsor for the top 10 list. And by request, had this one a while back, and I wasn't very familiar with her catalog. And I've got a friend in recovery that said, hey, this is my favorite artist. Listen to a lot of these songs. Some of them celebrate the old days, and some of them celebrate the new days. And so it's Elle King. I absolutely love her. I do. And it's so different from what I normally listen to. I like things a little more of an edge. But she has plenty of edge. It just doesn't have a lot of electric guitar, or loud drums and things like that. She's a bit of a throwback. And I love that about her. She's got an old soul, as people say. But here's the thing that I'm going to say before we get started. It's right now, as I say that, Steve's going to do Elle King today. It's my favorite. Guys, let me tell you this. And this is going to hurt some feelings, and I don't care. There are a lot of ladies out there that, they say, hey, I'm Elle King is kind of singing the soundtrack to my life. And for many of you that maybe that's true, maybe. But there are a lot of ladies out there that have a revisionist history and maybe a lack of self-awareness, kind of like many men do when it comes to their old athletic careers or their time when they were single and they've made it out to be that they were some type of lady killer when they really weren't. And of course, they think they were Michael Jordan. Now, if it hadn't been for that knee injury, I'd have gone pro. And there's some ladies out there that say that they're Beth Dutton. Let me tell you this, you're not. You're not! But you can pretend to be on social media. Nobody's going to judge you for that. I'm going to laugh at you, but you go right ahead, you know. And so there's some songs on here, to me, I think that Beth Dutton would really like. I love Yellowstone, and I'm ready to see the new season whenever that's going to be. But here we are. Elle King, top 10 list. Probably not something on the radar 6 months ago, but it is now. And again, I got a friend in recovery that suggested, and so when I was traveling recently, I said, let me give her another try. I knew a couple of the songs, but after listening to a couple of hours of her stuff, I said, you know what? This young lady has something that I don't know that people fully appreciate, so let's promote her on the show. Maybe not that she needs it, but maybe there's some Elle King fans that listen. And maybe she is your spirit animal. Maybe. Number 10, I told you I was mean. And there are many of you that probably should have told us that you were mean. But basically this is a song, it's like, hey, she's not treating the guy good. She didn't miss him. I tried to tell you in the beginning that I was mean. And there's probably some truth in that. It's true. Number 9, I like this song a lot. I don't know that it's been a big hit, but I like it. It's very catchy. It is. It's kind of got a little bit of a throwback feel, but also kind of got a gangster vibe to it, if that's possible for this kind of music. But it's a song called Tulsa. Tulsa, number 9. I've been there. Got a good friend that lives up there. Hey, Mark. Really enjoy when I get a chance to go up there around Tulsa and Pryor, Oklahoma, and go to Rocklahoma and that kind of stuff. They change the dates, which makes it a little more difficult on me. But had some good experiences there. When you're staying in the greater Tulsa area, look no further than staying at the Hard Rock. It's the best place. There's a smell there that, like, as soon as it's unique. And I know it's because maybe that oxygen they pump in there, but it always feels and smells so clean when I go to the Hard Rock in Tulsa. And one of the better buffets I've ever been to in my life. Service is great. People are great. Sometimes it's my home away from home. It's true. Sometimes I just need to get away from all this for a while and kind of shut down. I haven't been in a couple of years, but I go to Tulsa. There was one year I think I went like 3 or 4 times. And I'll share with you this too. When all the craziness happened with after the freeze stuff, and everybody was threatening to kill me and things like that, my buddy calls me and he's like, hey man, why don't you come up here and just kind of hide out for a few days? I'm sure that the kids are out of school, the wife's got some vacation time. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if something happened to you, so why don't you just come out here? We won't tell anybody you're here. We'll put you up and you can just kind of stay hidden until this thing blows over. And I said, yeah, give me to tomorrow to figure this thing out. And of course, at that point, like, everybody stopped tweeting me and texting me. It was crazy up until Hugh Freeze resigned. It was nuts. That day, like, my phone never stopped buzzing. It was nuts. I could quit answering it. The only people that I would answer, unless you were saved in my contacts, I didn't answer the phone, didn't respond to any text messages. It was crazy. My buddy out there is like, hey, I got your back. And we didn't have to retreat out there. And not to mention, I didn't want to leave my house alone anyway. Not with all these crazies in the world. But number 8, let's move on. It's Not Easy. This is a song. It's a collaboration with ex-ambassadors and Wiz Khalifa. I love this song. And that's one thing I'll say about the Elle King catalog is that there's a lot of versatility in the catalog. There's some country type stuff. There's some Americana type stuff. There's some throwback to the 60s type stuff. And there's some more modern stuff. And this is one of those. Not easy. It's not easy breaking your heart. It's true. I wish more people felt that way, though. That song would have been helpful years ago, right? And there's some people out there, too. We discussed this before. There are some people that are just tourists in your life. And maybe we hope they'd be full-time residents. But sometimes you just got to recognize that you're in different parts on the path, and you're just passing through. And that's okay. You can still add some value from that. Number 7, song about being crazy. It's BONETARD. And I like the fact that Elle King kind of makes herself the butt of her own joke at times. I do. I really enjoy that. There's some people that take themselves so seriously, and you can tell that she takes her art seriously, but she's got a bit of a sense of humor. I think this song really kind of fits along there. Number 6, Without You. Absolutely love this one too. Really, 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 really special song in many respects. And I don't know, again, if you know this one, but it's another collaboration with an artist called Diplo. I don't know if you know that one. Maybe you do. But it's a really popular song these days. And she has a new single out that didn't make it. Is the Baby Daddy's Weekend. Again, kind of a silly song, but also kind of a song of empowerment. But Without You's a different one. All right, number 5. This is another one of these celebration songs. It kind of reminds me of a song maybe from the early 2000s, and probably just about anybody could have done it. But I think it was meant for her. It's "I'm Drunk and I Don't Want to Go Home." That was the story of my early days, right? You get out there and you get to having a good time. Everybody's having fun. Maybe nobody's having as much fun as you are. But I don't want to leave. I don't want to go home. Steve, it's time to go. No, I don't want to go. No. Because I know what's at home. I don't want to go. Now, Steve, we got to go. You're going to take me home, make me go to sleep. I don't want to do that. I'm going to sit out here and party and have a good time with everybody. Steve, it's time to go. Everybody's tired. I'm not tired. I'll find somebody else to go home with. I was that guy. I was. I enjoy going home now. I do. Number 4, another cool song. It's just a vibe, man. It really is. It's Jersey Giant. And I really like this one a lot. It's not, I don't know if you could put a label on this one, but it's one of those songs too. It's got a great little acoustic lead on it. And with her voice, it really resonates. It's one of her best vocal performances to me. Number 3, and this is a song that means an awful lot to a friend of mine, is they are, I guess, relatively new to recovery, got several months in. But this has kind of become a theme song for them. And this is one of the reasons I decided to give this thing another look. It's a song called Lucky. Now, how did I get here? Well, I got lucky. And you go through all the bad decisions you've made in life. And there are so many people, too, that, listen, I'm not going to sit here and trade resumes with you guys. Not going to do that. But I know this. I know that at every point in my life, I have known the right thing to do. I just didn't do it. It's true. And I'm very fortunate to be here today to tell the tale. And I know that there probably was some divine intervention in part of that. Probably the strength of my mama's prayers, to be honest with you. But I'm very fortunate to be here today because it hadn't happened in a long time because I've outlived everybody. But I remember, or maybe I was, 5-10 years sober, I kept hearing these stories about people that I got clean and sober with, or people that I went to treatment with that were dying. That it got them. They couldn't beat it. And that's fuel for the journey too, man. I think it'd be disrespectful of me to go back out, when so many people that I loved and cared about, didn't make it. And I share that with you because I know a lot of people think, well, Steve, I've never had to deal with any of that stuff. Well, you never know when you're going to find out that somebody you love is afflicted with all this stuff. And there is some luck involved in the beginning. There is some good fortune that gets us back onto solid ground. But since that day, I hadn't been lucky. I was lucky to have a second chance, but I have worked for every single day since then. And that's what you have to do. As my friend says, I promise myself another 24 hours every day. I will give myself another 24 hours. Many of you don't have to live that way. Most of you don't have to live that way. But for some of us, we do. We have to make these deals with ourselves. And I remember there's been so many times, even in recent years. I've been clean and sober 32 years, man. But, when Dana was gone, man, it was tough. It was really tough. And I had some days out there. It's all of a sudden, the wolf is always at the door, man. And it's like, hey, you're by yourself. Nobody would ever know, but I would know. And I also know this, that you would know too, because I've never been the kind of person that could have like a couple of beers. I'm never the person that could have maybe take a pain pill and just relax and watch TV. That was never me. Never, ever, ever was that me. Because you get me going, man, and I'm looking for a story to tell. Right? We want to wake up after an epic night and parts unknown. You get me going. We're going to be down in New Orleans looking for strippers and cocaine. That's just, and maybe that's your thing, I guess I could probably take strippers in moderation, but I'm joking. Don't get offended. Don't cancel me. Not that I care. Number 2, though, and I love this song. I love it. I love the vibe to it. I love the instrumentation on it. And I know, as sure as I'm sitting here, there's some of you ladies that are saying, oh, that's my jam. No, it's not. It's who maybe you want to be. Because I promise you, You don't do what the good girls don't. You don't. You just kind of sing that song and it makes you feel good and you have that empowerment. And I'm not judging. I'm just kind of saying. I love the song too. I'm not a girl, but I love the song. And I love her vocal on this. But like, I do these things. This is my theme song. No, it's not. You know, just like there's some people out there that, you know, riding around listening to NWA. I said, oh, this is me, man. It's the story of my life. No, it's not. But it's okay to dream. But I absolutely dig it, man. Good Girls, great song. And the guitar on this thing is just great. I mean, it's not Randy Rhoads or anything like that. I'm not trying to suggest that, but it's got a real throwback vibe to it. I think you're going to have fun with this one. I do. Number one, though, and what could it be? I mean, how could it be anything other than X's and O's? It's true, because they all want to come and never want to leave. It's true. Absolutely love this song. There was several years ago, there was a young lady that actually sang this song and played like a ukulele. It was pretty cool. And I don't know who it was, but it was cool. Maybe it was Elle King. I don't know. I just remember the video making the rounds. That was my first introduction to this song. But her vocal delivery on this is absolutely amazing. I absolutely love it. And I know many of you know it too. And, you know, we've got these, we got these exes, you know. And it's so funny, too, what mentioned the Hugh Freeze stuff. It's so funny how life works, right? And I think I've shared it with you guys. I'm sure I have, you know, because I'm such an open book with you guys. But after I wrote Flim Flam, you know, so many of those girls that I chased in high school, you know, all of a sudden they hit me up again. You know, all of a sudden my name's everywhere. And it's like, hey, you know, I always knew you'd make it. I'm so proud of you. I always thought you were so cute. That'd have been real helpful to me when I was 17, you know, right? When I was looking for a date, you know. And now you're married to some guy you don't like. And because I look different, you know, you see that I'm out here having fun, living life, doing cool stuff, and you're not, you know, I get it. But no, ma'am, I'm not interested. No, I'm not. But nevertheless, just a little personal aside there. But yeah, let's celebrate our exes. And I'll tell you this, I don't have any bitterness against any of my exes. I really don't. You know, it's like it's so fresh in the beginning when you break up with somebody and it's like, oh, well, if I'm not good enough for you, well, then, you know, you suck. You know, that's how it feels. But, you know, I guess when you finally achieve some happiness in life and you get so excited about life and you begin to kind of find your purpose in life, all of that bitterness and resentment just kind of goes away. And there's some people that have really hurt me. I'm not going to sit here and deny that. There are some people, especially if you've read When the Bottom Falls, especially there's one person in particular that nearly wrecked my life. And of course, I was an accomplice and all that stuff too. But yeah, I've been hurt before too. But the reality of it is that for anybody that I have ever loved or even thought that I loved or even told them that I loved them, I hope that their dreams came true. I really, really do, because mine did. I live it every day. And so I think when you're happy, you don't get invested in somebody else's unhappiness. Does it make sense? It's like if I'm happy, I want everybody to be happy. I'm not going to sit around and say I don't want anything good to happen for them. I'm not going to let that occupy my mind to give me all this negative energy. I just don't want to live that way. There's some people out there that hate me. You better believe it. But I don't hate them back. It's true. I don't. I hate some ideals. You know, I hate the way that some people act, but I don't hate people. You know, if I ever need a reality check, I'll just go on Twitter and log on and read my mentions, you know. There's always somebody out there telling me I'm some two-bit hack and I know what I'm talking about. Always. You know, and their sourcing with me is not any better than it is with anything else. But the reality of it is this, is that life is too short and death is too certain to live with bitterness in your heart. And so while I enjoy the song X's and O's, I don't have any negative feelings about any of my exes. It's just kind of indifference now. I mean, I want good things to happen for them. I do. There's a reason I dated them in the first place, right? I liked them. There was something good about them. I may have made a mistake. Maybe they fooled me. But the reality of it is that I'm just not going to spend my life worrying about that kind of stuff. There's just too much good in the world to let the past occupy a huge space in your head. It's true. I mean, I'm thinking about the next wave, right? I'm not thinking about the old wipeout. I'm thinking about, hey, what can I do with the next book? You know what? Hey, can we get this made into a movie? You know, what about the next show? What can we do for the website? Can I hire somebody to cover this sport? Can we do this? What can we do there? I'm always thinking about what's next. I'm enjoying what is and focused on what's next rather than focusing on what was. I can't change what was, but I can change what it means, right? And so we decide, what that all means. I saw a reel earlier, and I could watch those things like all day, and that's probably what are so popular, right? Because you all probably do it too. There was this guy. He's like, I used to spend all this time telling everybody, oh, this movie is terrible, this album is terrible, this band is terrible, and I do some of that occasionally. It's true. And he goes, you know what? He said, like 6 years ago, I had a massive heart attack and nearly died. Last year, I had a nervous breakdown and went through a divorce. And I said, I'm just so lucky to be here. And so rather than focus on what's bad in life, I'm going to focus on what's positive. He's like, you know what? Hey, this band's not my cup of tea. I don't have to listen to them. I'm going to listen to the bands that I listen to. I'm going to enjoy the artists that I enjoy, whether it be on the silver screen or Netflix or whatever. I'm going to focus on what brings me joy and happiness. That's the greatest form of self-care, right? Not being selfish, but bringing joy and happiness into the world. And one of the things that makes me happy is to make other people happy. I enjoy doing things for other people that they're not expecting. And I don't always get here and talk about that stuff because that's not why you do it. That's not why you do it. And it was so special. And I'm not gonna mention names. It's on Facebook, so you can go look it up. But one of my Facebook friends, and I have a bunch of those I don't know. They just kind of know me from social media. You know how it goes. You got some friends on social media. You feel like, hey, this is my friend, and you met him in person. It'd be really awkward. But anyway, he hit me up and he goes, hey, we live in Roanoke, Virginia, and I'm surprised and Mom bought tickets to the game on Friday. And she said, hey, do you think we'll see Steve Robertson? And he goes, nah, Steve will probably be busy. It's game day, and which is very thoughtful. But she didn't know that we had a plan. And he goes like, hey, do you mind maybe coming down just for a few minutes? It'd make her day, give me the section number. And so we worked it all out. And so I was down on the concourse, and one of my other Bulldog friends had sent me some buttons to pass out for all of those Bulldogs that came. It's like we didn't have a lot of them. I guess maybe we had maybe 60 or so. And I was down there just passing out buttons to people, giving the state script, the M over S, just giving somebody, thanks for coming out supporting Bulldogs today, And I enjoy doing that, interacting with everybody. And lo and behold, here she came, and she's an older lady, and it was very humbling. It really, really was. I can get emotional thinking about this. It's like you work on these books and you work on their website and you get some immediate feedback, and it's not always positive. And there are some people that don't like any of us for no good reason at all. And then there's somebody out there that thinks you can do no wrong. And so you meet them, and to see how excited they are to meet you is very special. I mean, it truly is very special. And so to her son, he's like, hey, it's going to make her day. It made my day. It made my day to meet somebody like that shows me that what I do matters. It matters to them. And so that's where the focus is on the people that truly matter. Because at some point, we all have critics. I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, I'm hesitant to even mention her name, but like Taylor Swift, right? She is probably the biggest thing going in music today. She is probably this, and I think Stefan Krasnick said, hey, she's our generation's Michael Jackson. And it's difficult to wrap your mind around somebody being that popular, right? But there's probably some truth to that. But the more popular she has become, the more critics she has. And the edgier she has become, which has invited even more controversy, which makes her more provocative, which in turn makes her more money. It's like the Michael Jackson stuff, right? In the beginning, it's like, hey, it's little Michael Jackson from the Jackson 5. And all of a sudden, Michael got a little weird on us. And it's like, some people like that. Other people didn't. But there are a lot of people out there that are just haters, right? I mean, it doesn't matter what trends come along. There are people that hated the Beatles and their mop haircuts and things like that. And people didn't like Mick Jagger. I mean, there's always something, didn't like Kiss, And so I share that because if you don't have haters, you probably haven't accomplished much, right? That's just kind of the reality of how things work. When you get out there in the public eye, you're being judged. It's like the old speech that Tom Brady talks about, this the man in the arena. There are a lot of people sitting on the sidelines that think they can do it. They can't. And they don't even want to get out there and try because it's so much safer to sit out there and lob shells at somebody else without having any exposure for yourself. And that's what message boards and social media are for. So thanks as always for your support of the Top 10 list. Again, you can find it on Spotify and on Twitter, now known as X, under Roy's handle Dogmatic67, DAWGMATIC 67. I want to thank Roy as always. Roy is my friend. Roy Samante truly is my friend, and I appreciate everything. We don't get together enough, and I appreciate everything that Roy has done for the show, and love him and Missy and the kids. They again, it's just so funny. Again, we talk about these internet friends. Well, Roy and I took it into the real world. Broken bread many times, and had a chance to kind of get together, on the road at times. And so I'm very, very much appreciative of Roy Samante. And again, Roy doesn't have the platform to say it, but when Roy was, when COVID came along and all of a sudden there's all these layoffs, our friend, Roy Samante, was without a job. And there were so many people that hit me up and said, hey, have him check here. And more importantly, there were a lot of people out there that didn't have a job, didn't have an opportunity for Roy, that said, hey, can you update us on Roy? Because we just want to know how he's doing. And that says a lot about you guys. It really does. It says a lot about you as people, that here's Roy Samante, somebody that you've never met, but you've heard about him here on the show, and he is just of his own volition decided to start doing these lists on Spotify for us, and then kind of becomes part of my life. And here we are. And you guys, because you are so good-natured and so big-hearted, you care about Roy, somebody you never even met, but just somebody you hear about. And again, Roy can't say thank you, but let me say it on his behalf. He was deeply moved by the outreach of so many of you, that whether you had opportunities or whether you had some leads or whether you just cared because Roy is a part of our Mississippi State family, you just wanted to know that he and his folks were okay. And again, that speaks volumes about your character as people. So Roy, we love you, and hope to see you soon. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. Man, I love Campus Bookmart. I love going in there. I wish I could just buy everything. We're running out of room in his house, though. May have to update soon. But you know how it works, man. You can never have enough Mississippi State merch. And the best place to buy Mississippi State clothing, decorative items, gifts, whether it be diploma frames, housewarming gifts, look no further than Campus Bookmart. That's right. Listen, you can buy some of these things on Amazon, but why would you? Why would you take money out of the mouths of the people that have served you so many years? Come to Campus Bookmart when you're in town. Go by there and see their smiling faces. A lovely, talented Susie. Love her to death. Miss Kathy Brown, what an incredible buyer she is. She always has her eyes on something new and fresh. It's going to be something that you just have to have. If you can't make it to town, visit them on the World Wide Web at campusbookmart.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays. That's BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. That gets you free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than 75 bones, absolutely incomplete. All right, let's take a look at our final stats. Dakota Jordan led the team in just about every statistical category. And I want to talk about this extensively because I think Dakota Jordan has gotten unfairly maligned. It's one of those deals that we got people that, it's never enough, right? It's never enough. But DJ had a great year. Second team All-SEC. Led us in hitting at 354. Not to mention he rarely ever got a fastball in the heart of the plate. This was a mistake. He had to learn to be a more dynamic hitter. But he leads us in batting average. He started every single game. Not everybody can say that. A few can. But he started every game. Had 240 at-bats, which was second on the team. Scored 57 runs. Also second on the team. He had 85 hits. First on the team. 14 doubles. First on the team. 20 home runs. First on the team. 72 RBIs. First on the team. 161 total bases. First on the team. A .671 slugging percentage, first on the team. 44 walks, first on the team. And he got 84 strikeouts, which was the most on the team. And people are like, hey, and so my question is, why is that what we're focused on? When he did so many great things, why are we focused on the one negative thing? I think that says more about some of us than it does him. Because if you know anything about baseball, power hitters are going to have a lot of strikeouts. They take high volume swings. When you got guys that are impact players, they're trying to do what they can, when they can, that positively impacts the team and gives us a chance to win. And so Dakota Jordan is your MVP. He's also your Ferris Trophy winner, and rightfully so. And he is the guy the scouts are drooling over because of how well he projects. Now, Dakota's told me if I don't get what I want, I'm coming back. I got another year of leverage. But he's going to get what he wants. I don't know his number. But when you've got a guy that puts up those kind of numbers, when what some of our fans consider a bad year, you're going to get drafted. And he will. And he's going to be a very wealthy young man very soon. Does he need another year to kind of grow up and mature a little bit? Probably. But the money he'd have to turn down is just too much to risk. Dave Marchand finished second on the team with a .347 batting average. He scored 60 runs, which led the team. Of course, he hit in front of Dakota Jordan much of the year, right? He was on base more times than not. So it's DJ or Hunter driving him in. A lot of people have asked about what's going to happen with Marchand. And 27 of 30 in stolen bases, right? And a couple of those I think were, maybe he slipped. But Mercy is draft eligible. And I think, as Lamona said, I think we're the poster child for sophomore eligibility when it comes for the draft. I think Dave's going to get drafted in the top 10 rounds and then potentially could be one of these guys that maybe he doesn't get exactly what he wants, and maybe we can give him enough NIL money to entice him back, and then next year maybe he does get what he wants. So it gives him the ability to kind of double dip. But I would say it's 50-50. He said on Sunday night that he wasn't sure. He was thinking about coming back. And, of course, there's just more information to gather. Connor Hyzak ends up being your third leading hitter and hit .325 this year. 9 bombs. And we talked about him in the preseason of being an X factor, that he could be the difference in this being a good and great lineup. And I don't think it was a great lineup. I think it had a lot of great potential. Didn't always realize that. Of course, Hyzak missed some time, too. Missed 10 games this year. Or I guess 7 games. Didn't start in 10. Did come in later in ball games. A couple of those times he came in and got some big hits for us late. And Lamona's kind of joked with him. He's like, hey, you're a victim of your own success. I got to bring you off the bench. Like, no, coach, I want to start. But 9 bombs this year. And, of course, he was the hero of Hoover. 49 RBI on the year, which is third on the team. I think Connor's probably put himself in a situation to get drafted. And, of course, he has no leverage to work with. But he could be what they call a super senior saver. Like they could draft him kind of early on and then throw peanuts at him and save the rest of that slot money to add to their bonus pool to overpay slots somewhere else. So I think there's a possibility that happens. Connor Hyzak is a great young man. He is the kind of guy you'd want to date your daughter. Seriously. He is a super, super young man. And many of you got to see his younger brother on a Jumbotron at Duty Noble many times. I think I always wanted to ask the question, is that part of Planned Parenthood? To have a college senior and then a younger guy, it's interesting. You never know where life's going to take you. Bryce Chance hit .286 this year. There's some people think Bryce may get drafted. I think he probably gets another year. Of course, he has eligibility. And Bryce is a guy that didn't play a ton last year, got hurt. And this year, Bryce, I thought was a good piece for us. Was he a difference maker? No. But I tell you what, there's some games we don't win without him. He sparked the comeback against LSU. He had what proved to be the game-winning home run against Samford. Bryce is a piece. I don't know that Bryce is a difference maker, but Bryce is a very valuable piece to this organization. And eager to have him back next year. I think that he gives you some validity. I don't know that he is a guy that needs to be hitting leadoff, even though he got comfortable there for a while and then kind of was up and down a bit. I think he needs to be a little deeper in the order, but I think he's a good 6-hole hitter. And a guy that proved to be really good defensively this year. Had the one little error against South Alabama that people never let him forget. But you know what? Anytime a ball was hit to left field, I thought we were going to have an out. Hunter Hines hit .257. Of course, he slumped down the stretch, ends up with 16 home runs. Well, one of the lower totals in his career. But you got to know that everybody that sat down before they reviewed film of Mississippi State and said, hey, we got to get Dakota Jordan, Hunter Hines out. It took a while for Hunter to get going. A slow start from a long ball perspective, but he was getting on base, hitting the ball to other fields at times, and hitting well for average, and then kind of found a groove, and for about 2 weeks you couldn't even pitch to him, But yeah, I think Hunter will get drafted. And listen, I don't think Hunter's back. And people could say, he could come back and improve his draft stock. And it's true. He could probably get drafted higher, but he loses leverage and negotiating power as a senior because it's a take it or leave it proposition. Amani Larry has exhausted his eligibility. We were concerned last year Amani may get drafted. Amani's arm strength is a bit of an issue, as you guys saw, and I hate it for him. A couple big double plays down in the regional we should have been able to turn, and he just wasn't able to get it done. Had the big error there that allowed them to take the lead, and it was a tough deal. But Amani has now exhausted his college eligibility, as is Logan Kohler. Logan ends up with 6 tanks and 32 ribbies and hit 244. There was a time he was floating around 200 and had none of that, and picked it up down the stretch. But obviously there was some flaws in the swing. We were hoping he'd be a left-handed power bat for us. We ended up only having 2 guys with double-digit home runs. That's a bit of a surprise, truly. Aaron Downs, a guy that was really good once he got healthy and really good down the stretch. He played his way into the starting lineup and then really struggled to hit the breaking ball. Started 24 games this year, but ended the year very much on a high note. He was a guy that we could count on to get us a hit or two down the stretch. We look at Joe Powell. Now, I don't know. Joe didn't go through senior day, and there's some people are telling me we may be able to get Joe another year. I just don't know. I don't know. I just don't know. And so we'll see. I'm trying to get some clarity on that, but we'll see how things progress. But Joe, again, when you begin to look at the catcher situation, we go out. We got Ross Highfield, and we feel great about Ross. And so we need to get some depth. So we go get the backup catcher at Pitt. And then Ross gets hurt in fall baseball. A lot of rumors about that. They were denied for a long time. Ross ends up having season-ending surgery. And then, we had to go get Joe Powell. And Joe Powell hadn't played baseball in 18 months. And he comes in, and I can only begin to imagine what Joe would look like, after a couple of years in a college weight room and some consistency there. But Joe, I thought defensively was a better catcher. May not have been the receiver Johnny Long was, but was the only guy that could consistently throw people out. Yeah, he did a really good job controlling the running game. Dylan Cup, of course, wasn't with us in Charlottesville. Dylan had to have surgery. I really like Dylan Cup a lot. As you guys know, he was an elite defender and really kind of got that bat going a little bit. Ended up hitting right at 258. A lot of that kind of came right before he gets hurt. And you feel like, hey, okay, he's kind of figuring this college pitching thing out. And so you felt good about him, and I think we really missed him because of the fact that if he's playing short, Marshawn could play second or vice versa, and then Amani Larry could have DH for us. And so I think that makes you a better defensive and offensive lineup, but it didn't work out. And listen, injuries are part of the game. It's true. Johnny Long, of course, slumped down the stretch. Hit 188 down the year. At the beginning of the year, he was the guy that was getting bunts down and getting on base, and people kind of figured that out with him. But I think his last hit was that little flare to Arkansas. But when I began to think about this team, and I asked myself, did we max out our potential? And in my first blush, I would say no, because we left some meat on the table. We should have been able to beat Arkansas and Florida at their place. You win those 2 games, you're probably a top 8 national seed, right? And the pitching, at the beginning of the year, we thought, hey, this will be elite offense. If we can just be decent pitching-wise, we got a chance to be a host. And we should have hosted, right? Again, people won't want to listen to us because of the fact that we kind of did ourselves in by dropping a game with Central Arkansas and losing a pair to Austin Peay. Hey, you begin to think about that. I mean, you close out that Saturday night game against Ole Miss, you get at least one against the 2 you lost to Arkansas and Florida. It's 3 more wins, and let's say you'd split with Austin Peay and get one against Central Arkansas. It's 5 more wins, puts you at 45 wins, puts you in a much better situation. And speaking of this pitching group, Cal Steven was the guy last year. We took his commitment, and people are like, well, this isn't going to get it done. Yeah, he ends up going 8-3 on the year with a 3.28 ERA and becomes an all-SEC guy. Leads the team with 96 innings pitched. Strikes out 107 and walks just 21. That dog will hunt. Gave up some home runs because he's willing to challenge people, but the opponents hit his .213 against him. Brooks Auger, a guy that whose eligibility has been exhausted from what I understand, and was a spot starter for us. Started out as a closer, worked a lot of different roles, and I think Brooks gave us a performance in Hoover that may never be duplicated. Durangelo, what a turnaround for him. We knew he had the talent, and he got the coaching he needed. Finishes the year 8-2 with a 3.67 ERA. 90.2 innings pitched, allowed 70 hits. It's a pretty good ratio there. Allowed 39 runs, 113 Ks against 30 walks. Also gave up 11 home runs. A lot of that, too, is because he's pitching with a lead. He's challenging hitters. A lot of those home runs were solo shots. Cam Schuelke, we do expect him back. The exit interviews have now been completed. Of course, if Cam gets drafted, he's going to go. But we don't expect that. I mean, there may be some people that may take a shot at him late, because he is so different, But 5-3 record, 4.21 ERA, and I think Cam's best baseball is ahead of him. But you kind of work on through that, and you begin to think about like Nate Dome. What if Nate's healthy? And everybody wants to point fingers and blame, but see, here's the thing: every pitcher at some point is going to have arm trouble. But Nate goes 4-0 with a 1.23 ERA. It made 8 starts for us, and of course, one of those he didn't get out of the first inning because he was injured. But we can wonder what might have been. But Nate Dome is one of the most competitive guys on this team, and I expect Nate to get drafted. Of course, the door is open for him to come back if he doesn't get what he wants. Like if he doesn't get drafted or he gets drafted late and they offer him peanuts, Nate can come on. Tyler Davis is a guy that finishes the year 6-1 with a 2.80 ERA, 28 appearances, worked 35 innings, 41 Ks against 14 walks, had 5 saves for us, led the team. We had 11 as a team, he had 5 of them. Tyson Harden probably got a better turnaround in college baseball. He had a couple decisions not go his way late in postseason, but a 3-3 record and 3.22, and started a couple games for us too this year, but born again hard, only allowed less than a hit per, 36.1 innings, 33 hits, allowed 16 runs, 36 Ks against 23 walks. The walks are up a little bit. That's one thing about Tyson, I would say. It seems like we always had traffic on the bases. And, of course, there's Pico, a guy that came back sooner than many people expected, was absolutely amazing in Charlottesville, gets a no decision there, but what a great effort from him. And it'll be interesting to see what scouts do with him. It's a left-hander with a dynamic changeup that has a fastball that hits the low 90s. We'd love for him to be back, but we can't guarantee that by any stretch of the imagination. And so, I just share these things just because of the fact it's important to talk about our talent level, but also, too, what we got out of them. And I thought that Justin Parker probably got the most out of the staff he could possibly get. We need some more pieces. And maybe Gavin Black can be one of those. I know Gavin Black had a couple of good outings in the postseason too, and he's a guy too that comes up from junior college. It took him a little while to acclimate. There's some other times, the fastball was fast but kind of flat, and then all of a sudden you saw how he carved up Virginia. And yes, I think maybe we overthought it a little bit, but you got to think Pico had made Didowick look so bad as a lefty on lefty. And it's like, hey, it's a one-run ball game. We can't afford to give up a solo shot here, and so we bring in TD, and it just didn't work out for us. It may have been the right move, but it didn't work out. But all that I understood, there have been a couple guys hit the portal. Cole Cheatham, really liked Cole a lot. He was a matchup guy for us, and there were some other games he pitched a little bit deeper. Wish him the absolute best. That fabulous young man. The same for Logan Forsythe. Those guys are both now in the portal. Logan at times had some really good outings. But it just kind of never came together, But you look at the numbers here: 11 Ks against 3 walks, and 5.1 innings pitched. It's a pretty good ratio there, and didn't get a lot of opportunity to pitch this year. But some of that's just kind of part of the deal. You got to do it in the bullpen too. You got to do it in the simulated games. But we got some interesting pieces that will be coming back. But our success for next year is going to boil down to what we do this summer in the portal. We've already had guys on campus, had a visitor yesterday, got a visitor today. And as they make decisions, that we'll figure some things out, see if we can't share some information with you. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. I have been there multiple times. Some friends of mine used it for a work trip a while back. It is a great, great place to stay if you're going to be in the Golden Triangle area. Whether it's a work group, a friend group, a family group, maybe it's a couples weekend, maybe it's a guys weekend, a girls weekend, maybe you want to do the whole baby shower, wedding shower thing. You're looking for a great venue for everybody to just kind of be together and convene under one roof rather than go get 5 hotel rooms. And then you never know where Bob and Janie are. Oh, well, they went to the room, or so-and-so needed to go get a nap or get a shower, and then it's like they're gone for 4 hours, right? Well, they can't hide from you at the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. And you also don't have to deal with that stranger interloping in your conversation out there in the lounge. You know what I'm talking about. It's kind of awkward. So get all of your peeps together in one place, the Stark Vegas Clubhouse, whether it's a ball game weekend or it's a chance to kind of have a staycation of sorts and reconnect with old friends and family. Great place. Google Stark Vegas Clubhouse, and their Facebook page will come up for you, and you can peruse their pictures and get a good feel for the amenities that are available to you just 5 minutes away from the Mississippi State campus. Kind of neatly tucked away there in a quiet area. You just got like one neighbor, so we don't need you throwing a rave out there, ruining somebody else's time. But if you need some peace and quiet, you're going to be in Starkville. And what better place to be than Starkville? Choose the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Now, when you Google, some booking options are going to come up. The Evolve website, Airbnb, VRBO. Now, you can book whatever you want, but if you want to save a little money, I can help you with that. Use the Evolve website. Use promo code BSR10, the number 10, BSR10. You get 10% off your stay just by listening to our show. That's true. Membership has its privileges. Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Make it your next stay the next time you're in the greater Starkville area. Okay, a lot of people have asked me, Steve, what would you grade the season? Now, here's the deal. When I go back as stuff falls down around me, when I go back and think about what were my reasonable expectations, at the beginning of the year, I told you all, and I told people in the National College Baseball media, I thought State would be a solid road regional team. Thought we'd be a number 2. Well, that's exactly what we ended up being. That said, going through the season, game by game, I felt like we left some meat on the table. Or meat on the bone, money on the table, whichever. Money on the bone. We left money on the bone. That's what we did. We'll mix our metaphors if we want. But all that I understood, I think when you look at the totality of the season, it was successful as far as taking another step forward. Now, as far as our original expectations of, hey, we want to go to Omaha, now we didn't meet that expectation. And some people would say that's the standard. Well, you know, we're judging Chris Lemonis by standards we've never held anybody else accountable to. It's disappointing we don't get to Omaha, especially knowing that Arkansas was going to drop that regional, or even if they did, we thought we could go in there and beat them. Knowing that opportunity was available to us is very disappointing. Now, was this team capable of winning an actual championship? No. This team had some fatal flaws. There are no perfect teams, you know, and you never know when guys starting to get hot. Of course, Dakota Jordan got hot there in Charlottesville, you know, a 5-for-5 game against St. John's. And had the big tank early against Virginia. You start thinking, here we go, right? But there wasn't enough consistency in the offense. And you never had that really consistent third hitter emerge. One week it'd be Logan Kohler, the next week it'd be Connor Hyzak, one week it's Joe Powell. But you never had the guy that could carry us a little bit if Dakota Jordan and Hunter Hines were cold. And there were some weekends they were both cold. And there were weekends that one of them was hot and the other one wasn't. There never was a situation when they were both just absolutely killing it. They needed more support around them. And again, Connor Hyzak really showed some kick at times. But I think we probably got as much out of this offense as we could possibly get. And some people would say, Steve, it's not true. No, I think it is. And you're welcome to disagree. I think we got everything we could get out of this offense. And I think in many respects, me and you and others, we maybe overvalued the potential of this offense. Because you get so fired up and you start thinking about the best moments, right? And again, I gave you Dakota Jordan's numbers. They were great. But he needed more competition. He needed more people around him to help carry the load. Hunter Hines, of course, sometimes was just absolutely phenomenal. And other times, not so much. And again, it's kind of a microcosm of the season, of the offense. Pitching exceeded our expectations. Defense exceeded our expectations. Couldn't get worse, but we ended up being one of the better defensive teams in the country. We didn't show at that final inning of our season. But we fixed it on defense. We fixed the pitching. And now, we got to go out in the portal and get some big guns. And one of the things I think you'll look back and say, you know what, hey, you had Dakota Jordan, Hunter Hines, and you didn't get to Omaha. Yeah, you had those guys for 2 years together, and they only got to play in one regional, and it proved to be a road regional. And I think that's one of those things you look back in hindsight and you say, you know what, that was a missed opportunity for us. Can you imagine the crowds this weekend if Kansas State was headed to Starkville? Yeah, it makes you sick to your stomach to consider that Kansas State, on all due respect to those guys, that they are the team that's got to come to Duty Noble Field to stand between us and our 13th berth at Omaha. It's tough to deal with, man. It really is. But I will say this, Virginia is better than Mississippi State. The better team won the regional. And that's a great offensive lineup. Is it an offense that can win in Omaha? I don't know about that. And it's not like that it's the Wake Forest field they're playing in. Disharoon Park is a nice park. It's got good dimensions out there. And so I think Virginia's for real. I don't think they're a national title contender. I don't think there's enough pop in that lineup. And I think the regional kind of exposed them a little bit, because Penn gave them some trouble too. They didn't have a great offensive showing in their own regional. We've been there, right? It's true. But I think when I go back and I remember that Charlottesville regional, every game was kind of nip and tuck for us other than when we kind of spanked St. John's in the elimination game. We had opportunities to beat Virginia. It all kind of fell apart for us there in the ninth. And I think in many ways that kind of let us off the hook a little bit. You go into the ninth down 1 run, and you're not able to get it done, it becomes another 1-run loss. Another one of those things where just one hit, one play would have made the difference. I'm not saying I ever want to lose, and certainly not by multiple runs. But the reality of it is the better team won the Charlottesville Regional, and that's something we got to live with. There just simply weren't enough pieces for us to really make a run at Omaha. And had we made it to Omaha, because of the way the bracket fell, we probably were one of the first teams out in Omaha. It's true. You can say, but Steve, we had a very solid 1-2 punch with Cal Steven and Jarangelo, and it's true, they're going to keep you in every game. But I think the Achilles heel of this team has really been the offense. I think that's the reality of it. There just wasn't enough pieces offensively to carry this team further than it went. If you got 1 or 2 more bats, it's a different dynamic. And people would say, well, if we had Luke Holman and Braden, we got Luke Holman and Braden Montgomery, guys, we're probably the number 2, number 3 national seed. That's the truth. There are always going to be portal misses. I think there will be a lot less this year because of the fact that we don't have a coach on the hot seat in that respect, and some of you want him on the hot seat. But I think Chris Simonis and the staff deserve a lot of credit for what they've done. And again, you begin to think about, listen, injuries are part of the game, so I'm not making excuses, right? But you lose Ross Highfield, who I think is probably a number 2 day draft pick, the catcher. You lose him before the season even starts, before you even get into spring training. And you have to go hustle. And you go get a guy that's not even in college baseball anymore and convince him to come back to give you a little depth. You get Steven Spalletta, a guy that leaves Tulane. He's signed with Tulane, asked out of it, and becomes a freshman guy, called a little bit for us. And so you really didn't have that dynamic catcher. You expected Ross Highfield to kind of be that guy, and unfortunately he gets hurt. And coming back next year, I think Ross will be in good shape. I mean, Ross is a dude. Ross was a major contributor as a freshman. Of course, he had some trouble with some pass balls early in the year. And I tell people all the time, and one day you guys will believe me, I don't care what travel team you play for. I don't care what high school program you're a part of. Until you've had to block up a breaking ball in the dirt with a runner at third in the SEC on a Friday night, you don't know what you got in the catcher. But if you go back and look the second half of the season, Ross played really good defense. Ross is the guy that hit 9 tanks last year. So we were expecting him this year to take another jump for us and be a double-digit home run guy. And that could have been your third at bat. And Johnny Long, God bless his heart, man, he didn't throw out a runner all year. And we hid that. Did a really good job managing the running game. We did. And again, Bryce Chance, is Bryce a difference maker? I would say no, but again, he's a very solid piece for us. And so when you begin to, you take Dakota Jordan, Hunter Hines out of this, and you begin to realize, this is a team that was greater than the sum of its parts. And so, am I happy? No. Am I satisfied? No. Am I pleased that we are moving in the right direction? Yes. But we've got to hit big in the portal. You got to go out and get a couple corner infielders. You probably need to get a middle infielder. You got to get at least one outfielder. And maybe even a designated hitter. You got to get some offense, because right now we don't return much in the way of offensive production. You got to get a couple of starters. I was told that Stone Simmons, who was expected to be one of our closing candidates, was throwing 95 in a bullpen the other day. He'll play for Ron Polk this summer in Danville, Illinois. He, along with Aaron Downs and Judd Files. Judd got banged up again in the fall. So we got some pieces coming back, but we got to go get some more. We got to get some proven production. We got some really good freshmen coming in too, but you guys know having to depend on a freshman is a very dicey proposition. How many times have we said, hey, this freshman's going to come in and be a difference maker? It really didn't happen that often. I mean, you go back and look at that 2018 team, it's a different deal. Jake Mangum, of course, was freshman that started in the beginning and then missed some time and came back in SEC play on our SEC title team in 16. And you know how special Jake Mangum was. You're not going to go get 3 or 4 Jake Mangums in a class that can come in and be difference makers. Rowdy Jordan was a guy. Came in and played as a freshman as well. Tanner Allen played as a freshman. And so you recruit at that level and you hope for the best. But with the portal, you can turn things around fairly quickly. And so we have a lot of playing potential. We have a lot of spots available. And again, I know that there have been portal visitors on campus this week, and people are going to say, but Steve, who are they? We're going to respect the process as best we can. And when we can get confirmation from these young men, they visited and they're ready to talk, we'll talk to them. It's a lot different than football recruiting. A lot of baseball recruiting is kind of done under the cover of darkness in many respects. Not that there's any malfeasance, but guys are kind of hesitant to even reveal their offers because they want to be respectful to everybody. It's just a different deal. And so I share that with you because the process to build the 25 roster began the day that we got home from Charlottesville. Nobody went to the beach. Nobody went to play golf. Everybody went to work. Because we've got some positive momentum here. We've got to build upon this because of the fact, as I've stated earlier, we're only going to be as good next spring as we work this summer. Dante Norrie's a guy that's listed in top 100 prospects in the country, signed with Mississippi State. I hear he's got a very big price tag, that he wants to come to school. He's going to have to get life-changing money to bypass college, and he may. But based on what I'm hearing, he's probably not. And he is a guy that can come in here in center field and play as a freshman, a guy that can hit for average, hit for power, even lay a bunt down, steal bases. One of the fastest kids that'll ever wear the uniform if we can get him to campus. And so those are the things that we'll be monitoring in the days ahead. Now, tomorrow will be our first of 3 straight days of football camp as we have prospects on campus. So we'll have full coverage. We'll have 3 people working the camp, including myself. Get out there and get some pictures and see if we can't get you guys some content. We'll have everything over at genespage.com. Now, it's a little different deal this year. Mullen used to be a guy that would have 17,000 consecutive days of camp out in 100-degree heat. And so you'd have 1 or 2 good guys every day, so you'd have some really good content. But so far, these prospect camps, by and large, are newcomers and younger guys, and you saw some offers go out last week. And we do think that Josiah Clemens, a offensive lineman out of Clinton, at the Christian school down there, we think that's just simply a matter of time. They'll set up an official visit for him, bring his family in, kind of go over everything. He was the guy that actually took a personal invitation to campus back in February and came and met with the staff as part of one of these official visit deals. And he was there for a day. And it was really going to be about the camp eval. They liked him, liked his size, liked his frame, liked his film. We got to get him on campus because, the quality competitions maybe not the greatest. But after coming to camp, he earns the offer. And so we think that's probably just a matter of time. And so we'll be back on Friday, and not exactly sure when we'll get the show done. I was later today getting this thing done. I didn't get a lot of rest last night. And one of the reasons why is I was up to about 4 in the morning working on the book and wrote the Babe McCarthy chapter and had a chance to interview Bailey Howell yesterday. And one of the questions that I asked him that won't make the book, I just asked him out of bulldog curiosity, Coach, Bailey, how does it feel to be the only Mississippi State basketball player, men's basketball player, to have your number hanging in the rafters? And he sat there for a second, and he was very, very reflective, I guess you could say. And he goes, I can't wait. I can't wait until we have some more. I can't wait until we have some more players that are worthy of that recognition. And here Bailey Howell is, one of the greatest student athletes to ever wear the maroon and white, talking about the future, right? Talking about the future. Yeah, super, super cool, man. Absolutely love it, man. And I tell you, Bailey Howell is such a great guy, such a wonderful man. I could sit and listen to him talk all day and not just tell stories about Mississippi State or the NBA or the Boston Celtics or winning NBA championships or anything like that. But he's just such a kind and endearing person. I could sit there and listen to him talk about anything. And I'm so, so honored and feel so privileged to have the opportunity to gain an audience with people like that. I mean, to be able to go talk to them about things that matter to all of us. And one of the things that saddened me as I wrote the chapter is the greatest basketball player to ever play at Mississippi State, a guy that's in the College Basketball Hall of Fame and in the Basketball Hall of Fame, was denied the opportunity to play in an NCAA tournament game because of the state legislature. And I have researched this extensively, and there are going to be some quotes and some articles that I reference in the book about all this stuff that it's going to make you angry. And it should. And you can say, well, Steve, it was a long time ago. It is, but our state legislature probably cost us a national championship. Because in Bailey Howell's senior year, we didn't get to go to the NCAA tournament. We beat Kentucky, and Kentucky got to go in our place, even though we were the SEC champions, because our state legislature wouldn't let us go. And it saddens me in many respects. And even though we didn't go to the tournament, which wasn't 64 teams, and I think it was like 26 back then, 24, 26 teams. Even though we didn't go to the tournament, when the AP final poll came out, Mississippi State was voted third behind the two teams that played for the championship because we were the best team in America that year. Our only loss came to Auburn, nip and tuck ball game. We lose to Auburn. We won every other game that year, every other game. And we would have rolled right through the NCAA tournament. We would have won a national championship. You said, but Steve, you don't know that for sure. I feel pretty confident in that. I do. And so when I go back and I look at some of the things that have happened to Mississippi State, there's so many people have this poor old state mentality. I don't share that. But I understand why so many people feel like that so many things are against us. Because really, up until maybe the 90s, everybody was. And there's some truth in that. And I think if you weren't alive to see it, or you didn't research it yourself, you can't fully appreciate the hurdles that Mississippi State as a university and an athletics department have had to overcome. And you're going to read about that extensively in The Dude, and you're going to be able to pre-order that very, very soon. Probably as early as tomorrow. Yeah, we got to get all things kind of listed to go with the limited edition, because those are going to go very, very quickly. And so there has to be a counter on that because it's limited.
So we can't put it out there and all of a sudden sell 1,000 copies. That's not going to work. But anyway, you're going to read about this stuff. And I share that with you because of the fact this book, and again, the book's called The Dude, The Life and Times of Dudy Noble. There's some things that he was involved in, but there's some other things, too, that happened when he was our athletic director that maybe he got blamed for, maybe he wasn't involved in at all, that need to be addressed. And I believe I've done that. And so I share that with you because I think it's important to know our history. I mean, you want to know why some of these old-timers, these silver-haired dogs that we all love so much, that have endured so much, and you want to know what true fans are about, those are them. It's true. I've shared many times, we won the 46 Egg Bowl and didn't win again in 1964. The people that lived through that are better men than me, better women than me, because I don't know that I could have lived through that. Those that lived through the Bilbo Purge, when Governor Theodore Bilbo just was like a bull in a china shop. He was a madman. He fired Billy Chadwick just because he could. He fired our university president just because he could. Just to kind of throw his weight around. Set us back probably a decade. We had some donors, of course, that their interests were not mutually aligned with Mississippi State. Ran off Alan McKean. Biggest mistake we've ever made. Of course, we endure. The war took a big toll on us, the World War II. Enlistments. That's what we had to do, though. And you'll read so much about those young men. And as I've shared with you guys before, they were uncommon men. They were men that were out there making tackles and fighting for first downs, and then a couple months later, they're fighting imperialism in the Eastern Theater. They're fighting the enemies of America that bombed Pearl Harbor, and they were just kids. And a lot of them didn't come back. And it's important to honor their memory and their sacrifice. It's true. I've learned a lot writing this book, and of all the books that I've written, this is the one I'm most proud of. And yeah, I do feel like that's saying a lot. But, I felt like I was the one, the Dogpile was the book I was born to write. And I thought When the Bottom Falls is a book I had to write basically out of obligation, because of the fact that I've learned so much about recovery over the years. But this book, The Dude, I think is important because many of these stories have never been told, or they haven't been told in over 100 years. And there are so many things that we know, kind of fractions of without knowing the backstory. Like the time that we went to Evansville, Indiana, and our basketball team was called home because we played against an integrated team. And a lot of people have unfairly maligned some of our leadership without knowing the full scope of that story. And I hope that I've been able to do it justice. Had a chance to talk to Bailey Howell about that incident yesterday. And I will cherish that conversation for the rest of my life. Absolutely. I've met him before, talked with him before, and I keep telling myself I got to get Bailey Howell in a book. I mean, you think our heroes are going to live forever, and I'm like, I can't miss this opportunity. I just happened to be writing the Babe McCarthy chapter. So I got a chance to talk to Bailey about his recruitment, why he chose Mississippi State, what Babe McCarthy did that other people didn't, I think those things are important to share. There's a lesson to be learned in all of this. And I think when you read The Dude, you're going to go through it, you're going to think, you know what? We made some major mistakes as a university. We made some major mistakes as an athletic department, and we made some even bigger mistakes as fans. It's true. And it saddens me. It really does. I begin to think about where would we be today had we not shot ourselves in the foot and kept reloading the gun. True story. Hey, if you haven't done so, go to TrueRest.com. And, my lovely wife, of course, running the True Rest Float Spa here in Starkville. It's been absolutely great. We love our clients. We do. And now that school is out, and you're probably going to need a bit of a break, or maybe your schedule's a little more easier to deal with these days, maybe make that drive to Starkville if you live in Starkville. Dial 662-268-7601 and go float your troubles away. I went and floated yesterday. And I needed to. I needed the adjustment. I needed the mental exercise to be able to kind of relax a little bit, kind of clear the mind a little bit, and also, too, all those hours in the car, my back was a little bit stiff. So if you got aches and pains, we might be able to help you. You got anxiety and stress, I know you do. We might be able to help that, too.
I don't know what you're waiting for. I don't have to sell you on anything. I just got to get you in the pod one time, and it's going to be a remarkable experience. The very first time that I floated, I bought a franchise the next day. It's that significant. And I wanted you guys, my friends and family, to have the opportunity to have this experience. So we bring this thing to Starkville. And we're all in with this. You know, it's not like we just bought it and put our name on it. My wife's going to run that thing every day. And we're open 7 days a week till 10 p.m. at night. Yeah, the only abbreviated day is Monday. That's deep cleaning day. It's not off day. And so, so we're working hard to get that thing going. And so once I get the book done and kind of get caught up, get through football camps, I'll be up there a lot. So come by and say hello to us. We'd love to have you. And a lot of people are on the fence about it. Again, you can get more information going to TrueRest.com or just give Dana a call. She's a registered nurse. She can answer any medical questions you have. 662-268-7601. And again, if you hadn't done so, go to WhenTheBottomFalls.com. You can order the newest book. That's also where you'll be able to pre-order The Dude. And again, we haven't really launched that officially yet because we haven't got the limited edition link set up for you. That should be done next day or so. But be prepared for that. And the URL for the Dude book is DutyNobleBook.com. DutyNobleBook.com. But if you go to When the Bottom Falls, it'll all take you to the same place. All those URLs will run to the same website. Listen, we ran a little bit long today, but I had a lot to say. Love you all. Appreciate all you do to support us. Come join us over at genespage.com, the Mississippi State affiliate for 247 Sports. Nobody covers Mississippi State more than we do. Nobody goes to more games. Nobody does it more in-depthly than we do. And that's a fact. You can fact check me on that. But until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.